Paddy Pimblett's been on a roll, but Jordan Leavitt's here to stop his streak. Jordan already mentioned he was offended by the offer, and both fighters are determined to win in the ring. Who's going to come out on top? In this video, we'll be taking a look at Jordan Leavitt and Paddy Pimblett's upcoming fight. Stay tuned. First off, Jordan Leavitt and Paddy Pimblett going head-to-head in the ring soon. Paddy Pimblett, known as the Baddie, is finally facing a real challenge. Ever since he's signed to the UFC, he's already won 2 fights in just the first round. Both Luigi Vendramini and Kazula Vargas were released from UFC after their embarrassing losses. It's safe to say that Paddy wants to continue this streak, but Jordan is a good enough fighter to provide hindrance to this goal. Even then, Paddy seems sure that he'll go home triumphant after securing his 3rd consecutive win. Jordan, on the other hand, is also someone with a good 10-1 record and seems just as confident as Paddy in his victory. So, in the end, who will reign as the victor? This legendary fight will take place in the O2 Arena. People are already betting on who would win based on their current statistics and the talent they've displayed in the previous fights. Back when the fight was announced, Jordan mentioned how he was offended by the offer for a match because he felt Pimblett was picking easy opponents, so he's definitely determined to win against his rival. Secondly, Paddy Pimblett's got some things to say about Jordan, and they're not pretty. Paddy is by no means a big fan of Jordan. In fact, out of all opponents that he's fought, he seems to hate him the most. As expected of Paddy, the fight started long before they'd entered the ring, in the form of trash talk. Because what's sports without it? In the pre-fight conference, unable to hold back, Paddy started to rant about his hatred for Leavitt and how Jordan winning against him was just a pipe dream. He told him that Jordan was absolutely useless in a fight and that the man couldn't land a punch to save his life. He even said that his dead man could finish him off without a problem. Ouch! Paddy himself said that he'd never been so angry at an opponent before. Even when he fought Luigi and Kazula, they'd been respectful toward him, and in return, he had been respectful towards them. He used a lot of harsh words towards him, and even went as far as announcing that he would hurt him as bad as he could. Thirdly, Jordan Leavitt doesn't really think Paddy's something special. To be able to fight Paddy Pimblett should have been a great honor for Jordan Leavitt. Of course, the spotlight has never been focused on him before, but Jordan's not of the same opinion as the rest of the boxing world. Jordan clearly stated that this wasn't something he hadn't seen before, and so held no special meaning to it. On Wednesday, he said that if one would separate the fight from all the flash, not much would be left. Even now, he doesn't follow Paddy on any social media, and he hardly even knew him until after his debut. After watching Paddy, Jordan thinks that he's just a guy that managed to have 2 consecutive wins and still didn't really seem like a star. Not to mention, both opponents he's won against had losing records in their UFC career. He doesn't mean to insult Paddy, but in the end, there are other guys who've done the same thing, and when it comes down to it, this fight didn't catch his attention. He's implying the fight isn't a big deal for him, which probably struck a nerve. Next up, Jordan says he'll just fight, twerk, and go home. Of course, just because he doesn't feel a threat from Paddy, we can't come to the conclusion that Jordan hates Paddy as much as Paddy hates him. He said that while he does think the hype is over the top, he by no means thought that Paddy was a bad fighter. He even denied implying that Paddy wasn't popular, but Jordan's confidence stems from watching Paddy in his previous fights. There were a lot of openings in Paddy's fighting style that his previous opponents failed to notice and take advantage of. In the end, what Jordan means to say is that while Paddy is a good fighter, he isn't perfect, and he's going to take advantage of the weaknesses he's already observed. In Jordan's opinion, all he had to do on this so-called historic day was fight, twerk, and go home. We have to say it'll be pretty embarrassing if he loses after these big words. Finally, Jordan Leavitt admits the two are actually pretty similar, but at the end of the day, it's just work. Both of the boxers going against each other are extraordinary. Jordan himself said that he had fought with champions and title contenders before. There's no denying that Jordan has a lot of experience on his hands. He used to spar 20+ rounds every week for a decade, and most of these were striking rounds. The base is that he's never been dropped by someone nearly his size, and while Paddy has about 2 inches on him, it isn't enough to sway Jordan. Jordan also mentioned that he thought a lot of things they'd done were the same, and they even had a similar charisma. Still, Jordan thinks of himself as superior. Why? Because he'd done what Paddy had, but managed to not get beat up as much as him. While Jordan Leavitt thinks that Paddy is quite entertaining, he may even consider himself kind of a fan. At the end of the day, it was all just work. Now, in other news. First off, Mike Tyson thinks he'll die really soon. We all know that everyone will die someday, but sometimes when you look at people like Iron Mike? It's hard to believe there'll be a day we won't see them. But Mike himself is harshly aware of his reality. In his Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson podcast, he was discussing life with his therapist, Sean McFarland, and guest DJ Woo Kid. He said that, of course, he already knows that everyone dies, but when he looks in the mirror and sees the little spots on his face, he feels his expiration date will come really soon. It's weird seeing someone so great talk about this inevitability. Mike's one of the greatest boxers ever known, as the baddest man on the planet. He also mentioned how money gives people a false sense of security. They think that banks won't fall, and they think they're invincible. But he has money, so he knows that it won't give you true happiness, no matter what people think. Secondly, Sena Agbeko just won Winfred Harris fight with knockout. Sena has been on a roll, and the African assassin just continued his winning streak with a legendary fight. The super middleweight went up against hot boy Winfred Harris Jr. and defeated him in the 9th round to win the WBC USNBC fight in Iowa. Held at the Sioux City Convention Center, the sold-out crowd watched as the two aggressive fighters went toe-to-toe. Harris started the fight with a jab, surprising onlookers because Agbeko usually goes on the offensive first. But both refused to back down, though Sena managed to get in multiple body shots that definitely drained Winfred's energy. Finally, it was the 9th round when Winfred finally showed signs of the fatigue getting to him. Sena made quick work of him with multiple jabs to the head and got him down with a right hook to the head. Still, Winfred refused to back down and got onto his feet, only to take a beating. Eventually, referee Mark Nelson stepped in to stop the fight and announce Agbeko the victor. This means that Sena's now calling greats like David Benavidez to face him in the ring, with a record of 26-2, 21 KOs. Finally, Danny Garcia says Ryan Garcia looks like a welterweight now. Boxers are always looking at the latest stars, and Danny Garcia thinks that Ryan King Rai Garcia finally looks like a welterweight, and he's looking forward to his fights. The boxer moved from his light welterweight division, and Danny really wants him to go up against Gervonta Tank Davis. Danny also mentioned that he watched Ryan fight former superweight featherweight champion Javier Fortuna and thinks the latter really never had a chance. After all, the fight was a 140-pounder versus a 126-pounder. Ryan might be just 23, but Danny thinks the size difference was just too big. With that in mind, though, it's no surprise Ryan wants to go up against Davis because he's currently a small lightweight. If he comes up to 140, then Garcia can use his size against the 5'5" fighter. Davis started at 130, a division that suits his frame. We'll see if the two manage to work out a fight, because it'll be a sight to see the undefeated King Rai going against the Tank. That's a wrap for this video. Who do you think will come on top, Jordan Leavitt or Paddy Pimblett? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.